Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Calgary's podcast on Canada's Podcast Network. Joining me today is Dino Faldo, who is Vice President of Business Development, Alberta East for Mario's Gelati, and also Director of Brand and Strategic Development, owner-operator of Amato Gelato Cafe in Calgary. Thanks, Dino, for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You got lots going on there with the two businesses. Let's talk a little bit about each. Let's start with Mario's Gelati. Tell me a little bit about that and what you guys do.
So Mario's, that's our manufacturing arm of the two businesses. Mario's Gelati, we started in the early 70s in Vancouver, filling a kind of a niche void at that time. There was no really gelato in Vancouver back in the early 70s, and Mario was making some gelato in the restaurants because he had a restaurant business before. It was a dinner dancing kind of restaurant, a supper club kind of place, and he was making gelato, and a lot of chefs were coming eating there, and then it kind of started snowballing from there. Opened up a gelato cart in in Gastown, in the early 70s, and then started opening up in Granville Island when Granville Island first started opening up. So we've been at that game now for manufacturing for now almost close to 49 years. It's going to be 50 years come here in the next year or so of manufacturing for restaurant, hospitality, grocery, airline business, all that kind of stuff. So I take care of the distribution in Alberta, going east right now. So that's a big part of our business is manufacturing for our own brand, Mario's Gelati. We do a lot of private label for grocery stores and restaurants as well, that chain restaurants. We've been dealing with major chain restaurants across the country for probably now 32 years. One of the biggest ones we've been handling for 32 years. I'm under an NDA with those restaurants, not to disclose who they are, is because those kind of big chains don't like to let the cat out of the bag who their suppliers are and whatnot. Some of them even like to claim that they make the product in-house, so I don't want to get anybody in trouble at that time. Which is okay to us. It doesn't matter.
So I'm just curious. So who was Mario?
Mario is my uncle. Mario came from Vancouver, came to Canada from Amato. That's the kind of where we get the Amato Gelato Cafes. That's the name of our town in Calabria, where we're from. So Mario came to Winnipeg. Mario actually started in the late 60s. He actually started Gondola Pizza in Winnipeg back when Gondola. He sold it to a Jewish fellow that turned it into a major Canadian national franchise. And at that point, when Mario got his money from the restaurant there, he went to Vancouver and he started a couple pizza places. Then he developed an allergy to flour, and that's why he got back into the restaurant business and then started with the gelato in there. And here we are today.
All right, let's switch over to Amato Gelato Cafe based here in Calgary. Tell me a little bit about the history behind that.
Yeah, Amato. So Amato goes back all the way to 1929, where Mario's grandfather and father were making gelato and some more sorbetto at that time, due to us having fruit on our property and land. In Calabria we grow everything from pica di India. I don't know if people know what that is. It's prickle pears, I would say, to peaches and plums and cherries and all this kind of stuff. So they were making a little bit on there, and then they sell a little bit on the gelato cart and around the town and village and stuff like that. Our town is very small. There's like 300 people that live there. So this is not like this is in the middle of the mountains in Calabria, or on the top of the mountain, I should say. And it started from there. And then Mario, when he left Amato, went in Milano to go for pastry, to study for pastry school in Milano when he was 17. And then he went to go work on cruise ships out of Sicily. And then after that, he was in his early 20s. And then when he migrated to Winnipeg, which most of our town, probably say 95% of our town, migrated to Winnipeg due to CN and CP being the central hub in Canada. And that's where a lot of immigrants went to Winnipeg at that time. It was Winnipeg is still very heavily immigrant influenced and has a lot of deep roots over there. So Mario got his start in Winnipeg. Same with my father and same with my family and all the other Amates as well. And then he decided to go in Winnipeg, leave Winnipeg to go to Vancouver because the -40 winters weren't conducive to his lifestyle anymore. So, so Amato started out there. Then when Mario started doing the gelato in Vancouver for the restaurants and whatnot, he always had this idea of creating a like really nice, authentic gelateria. He was selling to a bunch of little small places that were buying some gelato from him doing scooping and whatnot, but he wanted to really expand on it and really give a really authentic experience. So when they had developed the started the plans for the new factory in Vancouver in the mid 90s, the idea was just to make the bottom portion of the property or the factory a retail outlet. And for our namesake of the town, he named it Amato Gelato Cafe, which at that time had 72 flavors, and nobody ever seen that many flavors before in a shop before. It was mind-boggling to a lot of people. So that was kind of our retail arm, where because dealing with the restaurants, the general public always was curious, where can I go buy this? Where can I go get this? Where can I go thing? And we'd send them to, grocery stores and let them know, but it was never really a public forum for our product to say, kind of come. So then when we did that, we had all of our takeout stuff, retail pies and half liters and 1 liters and tartufos and bachos and cassata and all these kind of fun stuff, and gelato on bars and cali pops and drumsticks. So it gave an outlet for the general public to come, as I say. And then in 2000, when I had left Vancouver to come here for the distribution, I was stuck with the same problem, or the same challenge, I should say, is that we were selling to Lena since 1993 here, 1994, when she was in the strip mall across the street there. And there's very few places to go for a gelato, like really very few places. I think Lena's was like really the only place in Calgary that you can go for the gelato. And then I was struggling with the wholesale in terms of public education and knowledge, especially with the restaurants. They didn't know what this was. And the first year was a little bit of more of an education process. So I thought what would better be suited to copy what Mario kind of wanted to do was to give this kind of public space where people can kind of learn about gelato and paninis and coffee and so forth. And then that's when I opened up the Amato store in Calgary here at the Kensington location, which is still to this day is just going bananas here. It just doesn't stop, and it's just very, very, very extremely busy. Even during COVID, it was extremely busy. And then I always had this idea was to take it a step further and really create not just a gelato shop, but I really wanted to create a all-encompassing Italian bar cafe. And then that was my idea and our concept, which we launched, which we talked about on the last interview that we did in podcast, which was the new location on 17th Avenue, which has just been very well received. And it's just gone off. The plan has gone off without a hitch to try to educate the Calgary consumers on what is real Italian gelato, what is real Italian coffee, because there's very few far in between places in Calgary where you can go get real authentic Italian espresso, which I import directly from Italy, and Italian pastries and cakes and paninis and so forth. And there was really never a dessert place to go for Italian stuff, like besides a grocery store, Lena's or Spinelli or Italian supermarket or these kind of places. And I just really wanted to expand further with the cafe concept and not just be pigeonholed with gelato. So far so good.
So tell me just a little bit about, you mentioned from the Mario's Gelati standpoint, your reach is across Canada, in terms of getting the product out. What are the plans for Amato Gelato? Do you see a possibility of future growth in other centers across Canada?
Yeah, so our idea has always been, when Mario had opened up the first location in Vancouver, we had gotten a lot of response because it was a very unique concept in Vancouver with wanting to franchise and doing this. And plus, it was beneficial for our wholesale because the more stores we can open up, our wholesale benefits as well, because we are fully integrated with the supply chain. So when it comes to pastries and the gelato and the coffee and the supplies, it all comes from one supplier, and it was a good model. and when I started opening up in Calgary here, it was a concern in the beginning is that is this business viable in the winter time, being so highly dependent on gelato? And we were getting calls from Toronto and calls from Winnipeg and calls from Saskatchewan and wanting to do this. And it was always a major concern for a lot of people, which is warranted because, we're dealing in Canada. We got 8 months of winter here, fall and winter, and we got 4 months of summer. This is not Vancouver. Vancouver's a little bit more forgiving in terms of being a coastal city and dealing with the weather over there. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of, over the years, I got really tied up with how busy the store was and my wholesale was exploding, and I couldn't really focus in a lot on this franchising kind of concept where I wanted to kind of go. So what happened is that I had this idea, like I mentioned, of turning it more into a full-on 365-day year-round cafe instead of people getting concerned about in the winter time, is it viable? Is it in the fall time? Are you just selling gelato? Is it coffee? So right now with opening up 17th Avenue and people are already calling us already. I got offers to buy the location already from me within the last 6 months. I've got 4 offers to buy that location at 17th Avenue because there are people lined up around the block and it's really just buzzing and booming and now the interest has come back again to say, oh, is this something, are you willing to want to franchise? Is this something you guys are ready to do? Are you guys ready to franchise? We are ready to franchise. We have developed that package many years ago, and we just sat on it and shelved it for right now because we just weren't in the position to want to do it, because I don't think that the brand or the concept was something that somebody in the middle of Saskatchewan could benefit from when November kicked around and all the way until March, April. I think people, don't get me wrong, people come, we service 500-600 people a day still in the winter at Kensington location here, and same with Vancouver. This is not a business that just is not just a summer business, but it's hard to sell that to somebody that's in another province, or it's hard to sell that to somebody in Medicine Hat or Lethbridge that doesn't come to the stores to see how busy they quite are. So now with 17th Avenue, the exposure we've been getting there, the social media, and just the reach that store's already gotten, and that's kind of the new flagship kind of model of what we're trying to go with here. And I think we're entertaining quite a few people here right now in the city of Calgary. I'm planning to open up a few more corporate locations, and our ideas is not to franchise in the city of Calgary right now. Our requests have been coming from out of the city into other provinces and other small towns and other bigger towns like Regina and Saskatoon. So that's kind of where we're planning to take the next steps with the brand.
So what do you think the appeal is for people for the concept that you have?
I think what it is that when you look at what's out there for franchising right now in terms of like a coffee or cafe business, they're really all the same. They sell a few little croissants, they sell a couple little lemon squares, and they have drip coffee and regular coffee and espresso. And maybe the interiors are different and the branding is different, but pretty much 95% of the store is the exact same in terms of the offering. There is not a concept in the franchising world right now in Canada, even out east, is that even if we found that is all encompassing something really authentic Italian, number one. A lot of these cafes, they're not Italian, which is fine. They're just, they're their own roasters and third-party roasters and running on the third wave coffee trend right now. But what we're trying to do is and we've created it and we've executed on it quite well, is that giving that truly Italian authentic experience with real Italian products all in one location. So if you're coming for gelato, you're coming for gelato. If you're coming for espresso, you're coming for espresso. If you want to come for pastries and cornetti and tiramisu and cocktails and aperitivo, you can all come into one. And I think that we've executed on that quite well, is that we see the diversity in terms of what customers are ordering when they're coming to the cafes now. You get a group of 4 or 5 people coming, they're not all getting gelato. 2 of them are getting gelato, 2 of them are getting pizza with paninis, and then they're getting desserts, and then they're getting tiramisu, and then the other one's getting Aperol Spritz Granita. So it's a little bit an all-in-one place that a group can come, instead of a group saying, no, I feel like pasta, or I feel like pizza, and I feel like gelato, and I feel like a coffee. Well, you have to go to 3 different places to go get that. With our place, what we have found is that it's an all one-stop shop over here. Very reasonably priced menu. When we're offering espresso for $1.50, coffee is probably the least expensive in the whole city that we're offering. Gelato is just the same market price as ice cream is now. Ice cream is up to $5.50 for a scoop of gelato and ice cream in the city. So I think that what we've created is something very unique in the marketplace that doesn't exist. Fully integrated distribution where we're not relying on other suppliers. All of the products are coming from our own warehouses and our own distribution system and trucks, and a profitable business. And a lot of these franchises that you're getting into, you're really just buying a job. And that's great, because you can maybe sell the franchise after if you're going to be a single unit operator or a multi-unit operator. But I think with our model is that you're buying a job, you're getting a very busy location, and you're making profits at the end of the day. And that's really at the end of the day, if you're spending all that time and energy and effort into something, you want to see profits at the end of the day.
Yeah. So what's the appeal of gelato?
I think where gelato is that where it is in the market right now. If you're talking 20 years ago, it was something very niche and very kind of not even trendy at that time, because not a lot of people even knew what gelato was, unless you went to Italy or went to Europe and did your travels like that, and you'd pass 15 gelato stops in Trastevere in Rome or something like that, or you wouldn't even know about gelato until I even opened up the store in Calgary. Everybody thought I was selling Jello. So go figure. Up until 20 years ago, that nobody even knew what gelato was here in Calgary. So now I think what the appeal is that since we've opened, people have traveled a lot more over the last 20 years, seeing what it is. I think that the quality in terms of the ingredients that we're using in the gelato is a lot more flavorful than ice cream. I think people are looking for something that is a little bit less fattening, I would like to say, because gelato is under 10% butter fat. In order to be called gelato and in order to be called ice cream, you have to be over 10% butter fat. And I think it's just a little bit of a healthier option. I think it's a little bit more refreshing. I think what we offer in terms of flavors is that we offer in Kensington, we offer over 72 flavors. We manufacture over 140 flavors. I think that the diverse kind of flavors that we're coming with appeal to a lot of different ethnic markets that are out there. Asian markets, South American markets, or ethnicities, I should say, European ethnicity. And those are flavors that are hitting home with a lot of people. And again, it just comes down to the quality. It's just not something that we're opening up. Like gelato's kind of kicking off now with more exposure in terms of other manufacturers getting into gelato and all that. But one thing that we thrive on and what we've always stood for is that we make everything from scratch. We're not buying pre-done pastes and syrups from Italy that you just crack a can open and pour it into a batch freezer and say, here, we got gelato. Because you can do that, but that's really not our game. Our game is really high-end quality ingredients that we import from all over the world. Mangoes come from India, durian from Southeast Asia, hazelnuts from Piemonte. This is what we do. It's like having a Italian restaurant and the chef is opening up cans of ragu sauce for the pizza and pasta sauce, which is fine. But that's how it is with the ice cream and gelato business right now, is that you can buy pre-done ice cream mix, or you can buy pre-done flavor mixes from Italy, or even on the ice cream thing, you can call Saputo or a big ice cream or a big dairy company and they can deliver you pre-done ice cream mix, which is all good. That's all fine, but that's just not, I think, where at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding, or I'd like to say the proof is in the gelato, is that it's the taste and the quality that bring people back. And I think our company on both brands, the Mario's brand with the restaurants, delivering to restaurants and hospitality and grocery, and for the public with the Amato Gelato brand, is that our quality and consistency has always been bang on. And when you don't have those two in sync, that's when business starts to go downhill, because you start skimping and you start compromising. Just right now, the perfect example is raspberries. I cannot buy IQF raspberries if my life depended on it, to make raspberry sorbetto right now. There's a world shortage on it. And we have a lot of our major customers that we're shorting on raspberry sorbetto right now. It's just we can't get our hands on raspberry. And our customers just go buy other raspberries. No, this is the one thing that we don't do is we don't compromise what our customers have come used to. And that's where you start to kind of go sideways in terms of what is your brand representing? Our brand is representing quality and authentic Italian gelato and sorbetto. And when you start to kind of compromise on going to just fill a void because you can't get your hands on something, then you start to really get into a little bit of some problems in that sense from the general public, especially dealing with the amount of customers that we deal with on a daily basis in the cafes. We service over 1,000 people a day at either location. And when customers get used to a certain product or used to a certain flavor, and then you switch it on them, that's a recipe for disaster.
All right, super. One last question I have, and it's going to be kind of a little bizarre, but I asked this question to another Italian business owner recently. What do you think it is about being Italian, the qualities you have of being Italian that have served you well as an entrepreneur and a business owner?
I think it's a good question. And I get asked this periodically. Why is it Italian always have like the best? Well, and maybe I'm being biased as this, but the public asks me, why does Italian have the best clothes? Why do they have the best cars? Why do they have the best food? Why do they have the best thing? And I think it's a sense of pride. I think it's a sense of pride in terms of being able to take what this world has to offer us in terms of food or materials for clothing or materials for cars and all this kind of thing. And it's a sense of pride and wanting to make the best of the best. And I think that by doing that, and the only way to do that is a sense of relentless work, relentless trial and error, and relentless pursuit of something better than just the status quo. And I think that's where I think we are in a society, and as I think is that especially with social media, this has done a lot of damage to qualifying what is good and what is bad, because there's so much disinformation out there. There's so much paid advertisement. There's so much paid thing. People don't even know what good is anymore. I don't think it's so. Oh, if it's hot today because it's good and it's gone tomorrow, and everybody's on the bandwagon today saying it's the best. Why is it so bad tomorrow and it's gone tomorrow? And this is the thing is why we pursue, why we get up in the morning every day and try to offer the best gelato experience, why we try to offer the best coffee experience, and why I travel the world, and why do I go to the ends of the world to bring coffee from Italy here? Why do I bring this pastry from Italy over here? Is because the companies that I deal with have been doing this for over 60, 70, 80 years in combined total, with the 92 years or the 90 plus years our family's been doing gelato, the 80 years that the pastry company's been doing it, and the 60 years, we have a combined over 250 years of manufacturing experience just with 3 companies, and they're all family companies. And I think it's a sense of pride, going back to your question. It's a sense of, I want to be better than just the status quo. And I think that's Italian mentality has always been, I want to be better than what's the status quo. And the work ethic goes along with that. And you can't get to that perfection. And there's nothing ever 100% perfection. It's impossible to achieve that. But the work ethic and the dream to be able to try to achieve that is what keeps us going. And I think what keeps Italians trying to be innovative and just trying to be the best of what they do. And it's not I don't think it's an ego thing. I think it's something that's just embedded in the culture, coming from there, from a society and from a region that's been going on for over 3,000 years. You know, this is not something of in North America and Canada, that it's a generation of new generation of new blood. This is old blood going back many, many years. And I think we try, as our family, we try to carry that passion and that experience on. And I think that's why people are drawn to it. I think people are drawn to that history. People are drawn to that love for the products and the love for just the end result of being something so good from something so nothing.
All right, super. Thanks, Dino, for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure talking with you, Mayor.
All right, super. That was Dino Falvo, who is with Amato Gelato Cafe and Mario's Gelati. I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Calgary's podcast on Canada's Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us today.